Are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? You should be. I'm Opie, the taxi driver, and I'm here to wish you a happy 50th birthday, Rob. You looking at me? Say, you remember a week or two ago when you were driving your cab through Reno? The police officer stopped you, the light in the back window. You pulled over. The police officer knocked on the window. You rolled it down. Yes, officer. What did I do? And the policeman looked at you and said, Hey, are you looking at me? No, he didn't say that. He said, We're having a contest here in Reno to find the safest driver, and we're going to award him $5,000. And you have been selected. You've got your seatbelt on, you're driving safely, you use your turn signals, the speed is right, you come to a complete stop, you're doing a wonderful job. $5,000 prize for you. You looked at him and said, Gee, thanks, officer. That's really, really great. The police officer turned to walk away. He came back and said, Hey, you looking at me? You said, Yeah. He said, What are you going to do with the money? And you thought about it for a minute and you looked at him and said, Well, I think maybe the first thing I'll do is I'll go to driving school and get my license. The police officer looked. There was a woman sitting next to you. And she looked at the officer and said, Oh, don't pay any attention to him. He just becomes a smart aleck when he's drunk. You look at me. And the police officer, oh, all of a sudden then in the back seat of the cab, this guy jumps up from under a blanket and said, See, Rob, I told you we wouldn't get very far in this stolen cab. So what'd you do with the money? Bail? But then the police officer broke out in song and sang to you in Dutch. Lang zal ze leven, lang zal ze leven, lang zal ze leven in de gloria, in de gloria, in de gloria. Heep, heep, you looking at me? Heep, heep, you looking at me? Heep, heep, you looking at me? Say, I don't know if they have Amish cab drivers in Reno, but they do around here. One day, Jacob, the cab driver's wife, was taking the cab back to the barn when she was pulled over by a police officer. And the police officer strolled up to the buggy, said, Hi, ma'am. I had to stop you because one of your reflectors is missing on the back of the buggy, and it'll have to be replaced. And she said, Oh, okay, officer. I'll have my husband Jacob do it as soon as I get home. And the officer looked at her, looked at the horse, and said, Hey, I noticed that the rein is wrapped around one of the horse's testicles. Would you please have Jacob straighten that out too, please? She said, Why, of course, officer, I certainly will. And then she went on back to the barn. And when she got home, she went up to Jacob and said, Jacob, I was stopped by a policeman today, and we're going to have to replace the reflector on the back of the buggy. Jacob said, Why, certainly, I will do that right away. Did the policeman happen to say anything else? And she thought for a minute and said, yes. he did mention something about the emergency brake. You looking at me? Rob, have a great 50th birthday. I hope you enjoy it. I think I did. Not your birthday, mine. 50. You looking at me? Hey, tot ziens, hè? Dag. You're looking at me.